Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Hollywood workers are in more trouble than ever. I'm trying to cover this as closely as I can. Coming from the New York Times, as Hollywood struggles, the region's economy feels the pain. Hollywood workers are now at the point where they're having to go to food banks. They are desperate to take any job they can. They're applying for administrative assistant jobs, if they can even get those jobs. It's not going so good. Also from the New York Times, unemployment casts a shadow over California's economy. Tech layoffs, fallout from Hollywood strikes, and an uptick in rural joblessness challenge a state with one of the nation's highest unemployment rates. California needs to focus a little bit more on the people that live and work in California, because Hollywood's not going to do it for them. The studios could do a lot more than they're actually doing. I understand saving money on costs. It does make some business sense, but you have to think about, do you not care at all that this local community that has depended on this working relationship for decades seems to be completely lost? I mean, they're going to food banks. If they don't care, it's one thing, but at least have the decency to tell these people, don't wait by the phone looking for work because it's not going to come. They could do that. They could discuss their production schedules with independent freelancers and with unions and explain, hey, look, as of a year ago, our production's down around 30% domestically. We're not expecting it to go back up over the next year, over the next 2 years. It's just not going to happen. I mean, if you're a studio, you know what kind of money you're going to spend and where you're going to spend it on production over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It's not, like they're going to decide tomorrow, what they're going to produce in January. It's pretty much they know how they've committed their dollars and what's going to get done. And it's significantly less. But you see these independent freelancers and even these union people kind of sitting around saying, hey, what are you guys doing? Are we going to get some work maybe in the future? And they're not really telling them. They could at least be straight with them and let them know. From the New York Times, as Hollywood struggles, the region's economy feels the pain. Film production has failed to bounce back after major strikes last year, and competition from other locales has gotten stiffer. And there are multiple reasons why the competition in, say, Georgia, New York City, Canada, the UK, Romania, all kinds of other foreign countries, all over the world, there's reasons why the competition keeps getting stiffer. There are tax incentives, which is basically cash rebates. If you bring a $200 million production to the UK, you can get back a good chunk of the money, as much as 25%. But they're pretty freewheeling in the UK. They want to bring the business there. And now, in addition to having more aggressive rebates and lots of resources available to give cash back to people producing films and TV shows in their different locales, now that they've actually been doing this for several years, certain freelancers then go and they move to these locales because they want to get steady work. So people leave jurisdictions like California and then go to places like the UK. They go to places like Georgia. They go where the work is. They can't just keep going back and forth all the time. It's not like they're multimillionaires and they can just jump on planes. They also have a life to set up for themselves. So as Georgia gets more established and does more film and TV show projects, they're going to have more people that then build a community around there to work there. There really is virtually nothing California can do to reverse this. Financial struggles have become a painful recurring storyline in Hollywood. A script supervisor visiting a food bank every other week. The cinematographer who moved to Georgia for better filming opportunities. An art department coordinator applying for administrative jobs to cover rent. The economic outlook of the Los Angeles area, with a population larger than most states, has been clouded in recent years by events that have upended the entertainment industry. Market saturation led to a shakeout among direct-to-streaming providers. Then the COVID-19 pandemic shut down production, and strikes by writers and actors last year went on for months, giving studios time to explore filming elsewhere in regions that offer heavy tax incentives. And it's important to understand that even though California is trying to increase the amount of tax incentives that they give, California also doesn't allow for the same incentives categorically. They don't do rebates on reality shows. They won't do above the line rebates, which is to say they won't help pay for a star to get some massive $10 or $20 million salary. They won't give a rebate towards that, but Georgia will. So if you and I were in the film business together, and who knows, that could happen someday, and we're going to do a $100 million budgeted movie, and we're paying about $20 million in salary to our top stars, are we going to film that in Georgia where we could get back like whatever the number is, 20, 25% of that salary star, like rebated to us for cash, versus doing it in California where they say, well, look, on that portion, sorry guys, we can't rebate you the star's salary because we just don't like doing that in California. It's against our policies. Well, no, we're going to do that in Georgia because we're going to try to save some money and try to make some money. You never know on these projects if they're going to actually make money until the projects are released. It's all very speculative. So how could people possibly afford to film in California unless it's something that the director really wants to do and they're a fancy schmancy director and they can kind of dictate that? It's not like nothing is getting done in California, but it's getting worse and worse. And these people can't sustain themselves because they're depending on an industry that no longer exists. When the strikes ended, workers in Hollywood hoped their schedules would finally fill up again. But for many people, things only got worse. In the third quarter of 2024, film production levels declined 5% from the same stretch in 2023, based on a report from Film LA, the official film office of the city and county of Los Angeles. Paul Audley, the organization's president, said in the report that even a few months ago, many had thought they would see gains, hoping for a rebound from what he called the strike effect. Quote, instead, we saw a pullback and loss of forward momentum heading into the fall season that will make or break the year, according to Mr. Audley. Since May 2023, when the Writers Guild of America strike began, motion picture and sound recording jobs in the Los Angeles area have declined 15%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For Deborah Huss-Humphreys, the past few months have been particularly challenging. A makeup artist who built a career working on movie and commercial sets around Los Angeles, Mrs. Huss-Humphreys remembers when she had to turn down jobs because of a packed schedule. But she's watched the industry evolve over 3 decades, with productions initially leaving the city, then the state, and even going overseas. When you're an independent contractor or you have a small business and you serve a lot of different customers, it should be actually quite often and normal that you are too busy to take on more work. It's not like you're a completely scalable business, so that if you have one big job, let's say, and then you have another big job that wants to do work at the same time, it's very normal to say, hey, look, no, we don't have the capacity to take that on right now. I have to pass that up. It's not like the big studio customers are organizing their work. So they would say, okay, in March, let's give Adam this work. And then in April, let's give Adam that work. Not if you're an outside contractor, not if you're an outside company. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and they make a list of people that they normally would work with. They would contact them and say, hey, we've got this project coming up in March. Are you available in March to take this on? Normally, you should not always be available. There should be projects that overlap each other. So even for the fact that she didn't normally see that, she didn't normally have to turn down jobs, but occasionally she would turn down jobs, already says to me she didn't probably have enough customers as it was. It's not a slight on her. It's not her fault. It's just the nature of freelance work and having multiple different major customers. Through lean years, she found a way to make ends meet. Now that it's become more difficult, she said, and over the past 3 years, she started dipping into her savings to cover her monthly expenses. Then after those savings are gone, comes debt. And then after you can't get enough debt, you go bust. But what I kept telling myself is, okay, there has to be some relief on the way, she said. These days, she's not so sure. Patrick Adler, co-founder of Westwood Economics and Planning Associates, a firm that has studied trends in Hollywood, said he saw the strikes as an inflection point. He noted that the strike settlements usually made productions more expensive. And the work stoppages, Dr. Adler said, prompted studio executives to reevaluate their costs and test filming in other locations, such as New Mexico and Georgia. But cost of living has grown in LA relative to other possible destinations, leading to ever larger cost differentials between LA and other possible locations, said Dr. Adler, an assistant professor at the University of Hong Kong. A recent report from Westwood and the Otis College of Art and Design found that in 2013, the film and TV industries made up 64% of Los Angeles County's broader entertainment industry. That portion has fallen to 52%. The entertainment fields that are actually gaining employment, according to the report, include video gamers and spectator sports. In October, to blunt this movement, Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles announced a proposal to more than double the state's film tax incentive program to $750 million every year. The plan, if approved by state lawmakers, could take effect this July. In an emailed statement, Ms. Bass said, quote, "The entertainment industry is the cornerstone of our city, and we will continue to do everything we can to support the many Angelinos that make it go." That $750 million is going to add up to nothing. They still haven't changed that they don't reimburse above the line, and they also haven't changed that they won't reimburse or give tax credits to reality shows. So what do they think they're even doing? It's not going to have a positive effect. Over the summer, Ms. Bass established a council of entertainment industry leaders to work on finding ways to keep more productions local and sign a directive focused on, among other things, streamlining the permit processes necessary to film in the city. In the directive, she noted that data from the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation showing that the entertainment industry contributes over $115 billion annually to the regional economy accounted for 681,000 jobs. Well, now you know how many jobs they're going to lose as they continue to lose this industry. Some of those jobs come from a wider ecosystem of workers, caterers, dry cleaners, and florists, to name a few. Those jobs rely heavily on filming in Los Angeles, according to many local officials, because they're all supportive of the entire economy. That's a big economy, but they're losing it. Here's what California politicians' plan actually is. Adam Schiff, now Senator Adam Schiff, is urging federal incentives to keep the film and TV productions in the U.S. So he wants the federal government to write a few $1 billion a year worth of incentive checks to finance production in Hollywood. That's nice, but I don't see how that's all going to come together. Yes, the federal government gives a lot of projects, a lot of money all over the world. Some of them worthy and a lot of them not so worthy. But how are you going to give money to California and then not give money to Georgia? You can't have federally subsidized film and TV projects that could otherwise be done in other places. I can't see how they could possibly do this. But then again, the government does surprise us from time to time. Ultimately, though, here's the problem. Other places are working hard to lure productions away from California. Georgia has an uncapped tax incentive program that has given billions of dollars to Hollywood studios. Uncapped means no limit. So California is trying to get their annual limit up to $750 million a year. Sounds like a lot, but Georgia has no limit. So how do you compete with no limit? Officials from New Mexico have successfully enticed executives with tax incentives, as well as reminders of the state's natural beauty and proximity to California. Netflix, for example, has invested $575 million in productions in New Mexico since 2019, including scenes of Stranger Things. And last summer, the company unveiled a significant expansion of its Albuquerque studios that includes, among other projects, 4 new sound stages. At least 38 states offer some form of tax incentive, according to a survey by the New York Times. Even if the proposed tax credits come to fruition in California, some in the industry fear that too much damage has already been done. Vince Gervasi, president of Tri-Scenic Production Services, a company that provides storage services for major studios and owns several sound stages, said relief should have come much sooner. Quote, "People have been decimated financially," said Mr. Gervasi, whose company in a suburb north of Los Angeles typically brings in $25 million a year. That total decreased by $9 million last year. Businesses are not set up to take that kind of a financial hit, especially if he's in the storage business, because he's got a lot of fixed overhead and he's reselling that capacity. But if he can't resell the capacity, all he could do is lower his prices. But if they don't have business, lower prices aren't going to help. The space has no value, which means his service has no value, which means he's going to lose money. Mr. Gervasi said a few competitors have left the industry or moved out of California. Quote, "They've had no other choice," he said. As his competitors go out of business, instead of them getting 20%, 40%, 60% less work, their lost work can go to subsidize his business. So as the industry capacity goes down, look at this guy's business. As he does about 40% less in total revenue and 40% is a huge chunk of business revenue to lose in a year. That is dramatic. As he loses 40% of his business, he's still getting extra business included in the 60% he's still getting from other people closing down and going out of business. So the retraction in the industry, the retraction of the overall capacity is probably close to 70 or 80%. I'm just speculating. I haven't analyzed the storage businesses and the reduction in competition and capacity in their local market, but you kind of get the idea. It's really bad. For now, some workers in Southern California, including Mrs. Huss Humphreys, are beginning to accept a new reality. And good for them. They really do need to accept a new reality. Things happen in life. Things change. Sometimes you have to move on and just find a new way to live and a new setup and new friends. Sometimes things are better than they were. But when things change and they're not coming back, and in Hollywood, they're not coming back. They haven't even been slammed by AI yet. They're going to be, but they haven't been. They have to move on and do something else. A member of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees Union, Mrs. Huss Humphreys has in recent months started a bi-weekly food bank to support struggling Hollywood workers. These are not just new and young workers, she said, but a group of all ages and experience who gather at a union hall to commiserate and offer one another support. She recently found work on the set of a television show that is filming segments in Palm Springs, roughly 100 miles east of Los Angeles. Quote, "It's truly disheartening to witness the decline of Hollywood productions," she said, on a recent morning before boarding a shuttle bus to return to Los Angeles. And when she gets back to Los Angeles, she'll be preparing the next food bank. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.